Hello, welcome to my channel. Today's story will be narrated by Dorian. Let's get started.
Claire almost scrolled past it. Her thumb was moving on autopilot, flicking through the endless tide of posts and memes on her phone while she sat curled up in bed, laughing and trying to get some moments of joy before she slept. The glow of the screen painted her apartment in a cold light, the kind that made the shadows in the corners look sharper than they should. She was half asleep, just killing time before forcing herself to turn off the lamp and get some rest. But then she froze. The sleep in her eyes ran away immediately. The post was a missing person flyer. At first glance, nothing unusual. Her feed had been full of them lately. Except this one made her heart stutter and chills ran down her spine. She tapped the photo and leaned closer. The girl in the picture had her face. She could not understand if it was just a cruel prank or if she was hallucinating. Claire blinked, her breath catching in her throat. Not just similar, it was identical, the same light brown eyes, the faint scar on her chin from the time she crashed her bike at 10, even the little mole that sat under her left eye. It was her. There was no other way to explain it, but the name printed below the photo was not Claire Winters. It read, Evelyn Stone, missing since yesterday, last seen near South Lake Apartments. Claire's mouth went dry. South Lake Apartments was her building. She let out a shaky laugh, trying to brush it off.
Weird. Somebody's catfishing me or playing some sort of cruel joke.
She set her phone down and swung her legs off the bed, deciding she needed to wash her face and clear her head before she could sleep. The post had made her skin crawl with fear. The bathroom light flickered once before buzzing to life. She gripped her toothbrush like it was the most normal thing in the world, forcing herself into routine. Toothpaste, water, and a scrub. It was grounding, ordinary, but when she lifted her head, her reflection wasn't ordinary. It was moving a second late. Her own face blinked back at her. Then it hesitated again. For a fraction of a second, the reflection lagged, her eyes still open while Claire's had already closed, her mouth smiling faintly, though Claire's lips were pressed flat. Claire froze, toothbrush suspended midair. She wondered what was going on. Claire felt like the lack of rest was getting to her. Then the reflection finally caught up, mirroring her exact pose like nothing had happened. But Claire's pulse was hammering in her ears. She turned away quickly, rinsing her mouth with trembling hands.
I need sleep. That's all. Just sleep.
Back in her bedroom, she sat on the edge of the mattress and stared at the phone on her nightstand. She didn't want to pick it up again, but her hand moved on its own, curiosity eating her bone deep. She tapped the flyer open once more, staring at her stolen face. This time, she noticed the timestamp. The post hadn't been circulating for days. It had been uploaded that evening. And the girl, her but not her, had been reported missing barely 24 hours earlier. Claire dropped the phone onto the covers as if it had burned her. She sat there in the silence of her apartment, every creak of the building suddenly alive, every shadow watching. When she finally switched off the lamp and lay down, her eyes stayed wide open. Even when exhaustion pulled her under, she dreamed of the mirror. And in the dream, The girl from the flyer stood inside it, smiling with Claire's mouth, blinking just a little too late. Claire woke up the next morning, hoping the night had been nothing but a half-remembered nightmare. She dragged herself out of bed, made coffee, and avoided looking in the bathroom mirror entirely. By the time she settled on the couch with her laptop, the daylight felt almost comforting, until she logged into her social media. Her notifications had blown up overnight. At first, she thought she'd been tagged in a joke, or maybe some spam bot had hijacked her pictures. But when she clicked through, her stomach lurched. At least 3 new accounts were using her selfies. Not just 1 or 2 photos, entire galleries, all stolen from her profile. Different names sat at the top of each page: Anna Blackwood, Rachel Turner, Evelyn Cross. Each bio carried a single word: missing. Claire slammed the laptop shut, her coffee sloshing onto the table. She stood in her quiet apartment, every hair on her arms raised.
It's some sick prank.
On her way to work later that morning, she stopped dead at the corner of 5th and Willow. A flyer fluttered against the lamppost, taped at the corners. Her own face stared back at her. Only this time, the name was Rachel Turner, missing since last week. Her breath came short and fast as she scanned the street. Nobody seemed to notice. A man in a baseball cap walked past without a second glance, and 2 women pushed strollers, chatting like everything was normal. But Claire's world tilted. She ripped the flyer down, crumpled it into her purse, and hurried down the sidewalk. By lunchtime, she had found 3 more flyers in different parts of town. Each one showed her face, with a different name, a different date of disappearance. That night, she locked her door twice and sat cross-legged on her bed with her phone clutched in both hands. She hadn't posted any new photos in weeks, yet somehow more kept appearing online, reshuffled and rebranded, as if she were a mannequin dressed up in new identities. Her phone buzzed, a direct message. The sender's profile picture was blank, the username nothing but a jumble of letters and numbers. She hesitated, then opened it.
I found you. Again.
Claire's thumb hovered over the screen. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. She almost deleted the app and tossed the phone across the room, but another message popped up.
You look better as Evelyn.
Her breath caught. Evelyn. Din name from the first flyer. She slammed the phone face down on the bed and pressed both hands against her mouth to stop a scream. Her mind raced through possibilities. A stalker, a hacker, someone watching her, but how did they know her apartment? How did they know her building? The phone buzzed again. She didn't want to look, but the sound drilled into her until she picked it up. A new message.
See you soon, Angel.
Claire dropped the phone onto the covers and backed away as though it might crawl after her. She wrapped her arms around herself, rocking gently. She wanted to call the police, but what could she say? Was that someone stealing her face for missing person flyers? Was her reflection wrong in the mirror? They'd lock her in a psych ward before they took her seriously. The clock on her nightstand read 11:47 p.m. She didn't sleep. She sat against the headboard, phone in her lap, staring at the door as though something might come through it. And when her eyes finally slipped shut, her phone vibrated once more. The message on the screen read,
Don't lock your door tonight.
It took her a long time before she finally slept. Claire had stopped trusting the mirror. At first, it was little things. She would brush her teeth and notice her reflection lingering half a second too long before lowering the toothbrush. She'd chalk it up to exhaustion, or maybe the poor lighting in her bathroom. But then one evening, standing at the sink with her hair pulled back, she froze. Her reflection smiled. Her lips stayed still, but the other Claire stretched hers into a wide, deliberate grin. Claire staggered back, knocking her elbow against the towel rack. She blinked rapidly, but the reflection continued to grin until she fled the bathroom and slammed the door shut. From that night on, she avoided mirrors entirely, but there was no escaping glass. Windows, her phone screen, even the metal of her coffee spoon. Each surface seemed to carry traces of her other self. One night, she caught her reflection mouthing something silently, words forming with careful precision. She tried to lip read, but panic fogged her brain. Still, she thought she saw the shape of the words. He's coming. The worst part was not knowing if it was a warning or a threat. Her phone betrayed her next. One morning, as she dragged herself from another night of fractured sleep, the front-facing camera blinked on by itself. She hadn't touched it. The red recording light stared at her like an unblinking eye. She snatched it from the nightstand and tried to shut it off, but the screen froze. When she finally managed to restart the phone, a new folder appeared in her gallery. She opened it with trembling fingers. The photos were of her, dozens of them, sleeping and lying curled in bed, the covers slipping from her shoulder, her hair tangled across the pillow. The photos had been taken from impossible angles, unless someone had been standing in the room. Claire screamed and dropped the phone. It clattered across the floor, but the images burned into her mind. She didn't pick it up again. Instead, she sat in the corner of her bedroom with her arms wrapped tightly around her knees, rocking back and forth as daylight bled into night. Days blurred. She stopped going to work, stopped answering calls. The curtains remained drawn, and the locks were checked twice an hour. But isolation only seemed to feed the thing that was after her. Even with the windows covered, reflections leaked through. In the dark glass of her television screen, she saw herself standing in the background of her own apartment, watching. In the surface of her untouched coffee, her reflection mouthed words she didn't dare try to read. She tossed spoons into the trash, avoided her laptop, shut herself in shadow. But there was no safe corner left. Sometimes she swore she heard breathing when the apartment was silent. Not hers. Heavy, measured, as if someone stood just out of sight. The final straw came one night when she woke to a vibration under her pillow. She reached for her phone, but it wasn't the one she had left charging on the nightstand. It was another, identical to hers but cracked across the screen, faint blood smears at the edges. A single message glowed.
You can't hide from yourself.
Claire screamed until her throat gave out. She'd reached her breaking point. She refused to be a victim, refused to sit trembling while her own face mocked her from every shiny surface in the apartment. One afternoon, clutching a hammer she had bought at the hardware store, she attacked the bathroom mirror. The glass exploded into 1,000 shards, raining across the sink and floor. She didn't stop there. She smashed the vanity mirror in her bedroom, the decorative framed glass in her hallway, and even the black screen of her unplugged television. Panting, sweat sticking her shirt to her back, she stood surrounded by fragments. But when she glanced down, Each shard still held her. Not her face as it was, but a distorted grin. Tiny reflections of her doppelganger stared up at her from the floor, their mouths curled wider than any human mouth should stretch. The fragments glittered like teeth in a predator's jaw. She kicked them under rugs, swept them into piles, but no matter what she did, they remained. Each fragment smiling, watching. That night, she decided her phone had to go. She had already stopped answering calls, stopped using it except when absolutely necessary, but it felt tainted, complicit in her torment. She powered it off, snapped the SIM card in half, and tossed the device into the trash chute. The next morning, though, there was a phone on her nightstand. A new one, sleeker, newer than hers, but already open to the voice memo app. Her hands shook as she pressed play. Her own voice poured out.
Don't take me. I'll be good. Please, don't take me.
The voice broke into sobs. The begging was raw, desperate, unrecognizable as her own, yet every syllable confirmed it. Claire fell to the floor, the phone slipping from her hand, the recording looping endlessly. She unplugged every electronic device in her apartment and even smashed her laptop. Still, the recordings found her. They appeared on borrowed phones from neighbors when she tried to call for help, on radios when she passed by shops, even faintly from a child's toy one evening when she walked home in the dark, as though her pleas had become stitched into the fabric of sound itself. The final confrontation began in her bathroom, or what was left of it. She had avoided the room since smashing the mirror, but she couldn't avoid it forever. She needed the shower, needed to at least rinse the sweat and fear from her skin. She tried not to look at the jagged remnants of glass clinging to the frame above the sink, but when she did, she froze. Her reflection was whole again. It stood there, perfectly intact, unmarred, smiling faintly as though amused by her fear. Claire gripped the sink.
You're not real.
The reflection tilted its head. Then, for the first time, its lips moved in perfect synchrony with words Claire heard aloud.
You are me now. You've been borrowed long enough.
Claire staggered backward, knocking shampoo bottles into the tub. Her reflection did not mimic her movement. Instead, it pressed its palm flat against the inside of the glass. A circle of condensation bloomed beneath it, as though there truly was breath, heat, flesh behind the mirror. Another hand joined the first. Slowly, fingers curled against the surface, leaving streaks of moisture as the figure leaned closer. Claire screamed and ran from the room, slamming the door shut behind her. She grabbed a chair and wedged it under the handle. Her heart pounded in her ears, but through the walls, she swore she could hear breathing again. This time, heavier, deeper, closer. Her apartment was no longer hers. Every reflective surface seemed alive, waiting. Every shadow seemed to bend toward her. She locked herself in her bedroom with the lights on, clutching the hammer, but the glow of the lamp flickered strangely, casting two shadows of her instead of one. The second shadow moved when she didn't. Claire could barely breathe. The apartment smelled of dust and copper, and every surface seemed to pulse with life. She snatched the strange new phone from her nightstand and, with shaking hands, dialed 911. The line clicked, and for a second she thought she might be saved.
911, what's your emergency? Claire, why are you calling me? You know no one else can hear you. Help me! Someone's in my apartment! Please! You've always been dramatic. Don't worry, I'll take it from here.
The line went dead. Claire threw the phone across the room, shattering it against the wall. The lights flickered above her, buzzing like trapped flies. The air grew heavy and oppressive. And then came the sound. A slow creak from the bathroom. The chair she had wedged under the handle slicked across the floor, inch by inch, as though someone was pushing it from the other side. Claire staggered back. The bathroom door swung open. The mirror she had smashed was whole again. Its surface rippled like dark water, and from within, her reflection pressed forward. Hands first, then shoulders, then the curve of her head. Flesh solidified, as if she were crawling out of the glass, every detail sharpened, every feature radiant. It was her, but not broken, not trembling, not exhausted. This version of Claire was flawless. Her skin glowed, her posture was regal, her eyes burned with confidence. Claire screamed and ran for the door, but before she reached it, cold hands gripped her wrist. The reflection's grip was like iron.
No! You're not real! You're not—
The doppelganger smiled, that same wide grin she had seen in the shards.
You've served your purpose. You were the shell. Now, it's my turn.
With one sharp tug, Claire was yanked toward the mirror. Her heels dug into the floorboards, her nails clawed at the doorway, but nothing slowed her. Her own face stared back at her, smiling serenely as she was dragged into the glass. Her scream echoed, muffled, as she pounded from the other side. Inside the mirror, Claire's fists struck the surface, her eyes wild with terror. But from the outside, the doppelganger straightened her clothes, smoothed her hair, and adjusted the neckline of her shirt. She glanced once at the mirror, tilting her head at the reflection of the real Claire, who was now trapped behind the glass, silently screaming.
Much better.
The lights steadied. The new Claire picked up the phone, unbroken again, and tucked it neatly into her pocket. She smiled, radiant and whole, before stepping out of the apartment into the morning sun. Behind her, inside the mirror, the real Claire's hands slid down the glass until they disappeared into the dark. The next morning, the neighbors saw Claire step out of her apartment. She looked different, not in the way exhaustion had carved lines under her eyes for weeks, but in a way that felt too perfect. Her hair shone in the morning sun, her smile was wide and effortless, and she waved warmly to the older woman who always walked her dog down the street. She greeted the woman, her voice lilting and sweet. The woman blinked, pleasantly surprised at how cheerful Claire suddenly seemed. Claire strolled down the sidewalk as though she had not spent nights locked away, curtains drawn, haunted by something unseen. She looked radiant, whole, more alive than she had been in months. Inside the apartment, however, her phone still sat on the kitchen counter, the screen glowing red with the ongoing recording. The place was quiet now, unnervingly spotless, as if nothing had ever happened. The recording ticked toward its end, the last file saved at 6:42 a.m. The officers who later recovered it pressed play. Static hummed first, then the sound of frantic breathing. Claire's voice, ragged and trembling, broke through.
Give me back my face!
Then came a sharp, unnatural distortion, and silence. The recording cut off.
I hope you've enjoyed Dorian's story today. If you'd like to see more, click subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and drop a comment down below. Until next time, I hope you have a great day.